Conferencing with young writers. What is conferencing? Before I begin, I want you to think about what you know about conferencing and write it down. The following questions will be the building blocks of this workshop. Keep these questions in mind as you are writing. What are the goals of the writing conference? When should I confer with students about their writing? What will conferencing look like in my classroom? What are the teaching moves in a writing conference? And what should I teach in a writing conference? Before I answer those crucial questions, I want to go over some basic fundamentals of conferencing. These basics come from the book Writing Workshop: The Essential Guide by Ralph Fletcher and Joanne Portaluppi. As teachers, we need to listen, be present as a reader, understand the writer, follow the student's energy, build on strengths, and teach one thing. So, what are the goals of a writing conference? It is not our job to fix our students' writing. We need to teach our students writing strategies that he or she can use to make their writing better. Think long term. We are teaching the writer, not the writing. Hold writing conferences when the students are writing. During writing workshop is when most teachers confer. What will conferring look like in my classroom? There are no rules as to how conferencing should look in your classroom. Conferencing looks different in all classrooms since all students are different. However, I suggest following these guidelines to ensure that you can make the best use out of yours and the student's time. You can move from table to table or desk to desk and sit next to your student. You can also sit at a separate table and call the students over one at a time or groups at a time. This is usually what I do when I conference with my students in my classroom. You should sit side by side with the writing in front of both you and your student so that you both can see it. Treat a conference like a conversation. Ask questions and listen to what your student has to say. Each conference should be about 5 to 7 minutes, and you should always keep records to track your student progress. What are the teaching moves in a writing conference? Part 1 is identifying the student needs. You want to find out the stage of the writing process that the student is in. Assess what the student is doing well and what he or she still needs help with. You want to ask open-ended questions. How's it going? How are you doing on your writing today? Ask follow-up questions. Where are you in the writing process? What are you doing well? Look at the student's writing. Part 2 is to teach the strategy or technique. You want to give the student feedback, teach the strategy that will help the student grow as a writer, have the student try the technique he or she just learned, and then link the conference back to the student's work. The teacher's role during writing conferences changes as the student works through the writing process. You are going to be teaching different techniques and strategies for each stage of the writing process. You want to focus on qualities of good writing, and teaching students how to write purposefully and by choice. Now that you have heard a brief overview of conferencing, read the following student's work and record his or her strengths and weaknesses. Consider the following questions and write them down so you have them while you are viewing the student's work. Work on your own right now and then you will have time to share after. Now try this one. Now, turn to your neighbors and compare your views on how the student is as a writer. Take about 2 to 3 minutes to do so. One of the most important parts of a writing conference is the decision phase, which contains 3 parts. You want to decide what you want to compliment the child on, figure out what they are doing well. Based on that, decide what you want to teach the child. This should be something that they can take with them to future writing pieces. Last, you want to decide how to teach this strategy or technique. So the teacher's role in the writing conference. As I stated earlier, the teacher's role in a writing conference changes as the student moves through the writing process. As teachers, we need to understand that for a writing conference to be successful, we have to worry less about what we are going to talk about with the students and focus on having a conversation with him or her where they could tell you what they need. It is our job to meet those needs. There are 2 parts of a writing conference conversation. The first part is to talk with the students about their work. The second part is to talk with the students about how to become a better writer. This is where you're going to teach your teaching strategy. So part 1. While you are talking with the student about their work, you should invite the student to set the agenda, get on the same line of thinking as the student, ask research questions, and read the student's work. Decide on strengths and weaknesses, and then decide what you want to teach the student. During this part of the writing conference, once you find out where the student is at in the writing process, you can decide how to teach the student. If the student is planning, you can help them find ideas to write about. Help them gather information they need to write a draft. If they are drafting, you can assist students in developing their ideas. Help them decide on a genre and structure of the piece, develop content, craft their writing, and keep the piece flowing. If they are revising, help the students improve their writing by teaching strategies they can carry with them from that point on. And if they are editing, make students become better editors. Discuss conventions like grammar, mechanics, and spelling. Your role changes during part 2 of a writing conference. During this part of the writing conference, we want to help our students become better writers. To help your students become better writers, you should give them critical feedback, teach the student a writing strategy or technique that will help him or her become a better writer in the long run, have the student try out the strategy, and then link the conference back to the student's writing. So, let's go back to the student work samples that you looked at earlier. Now I want you to analyze these samples and answer the following questions. What would you compliment this student on? What does the student need to work on? And what strategies or techniques might you teach this student to make him or her a better writer? Now try this one. Once again, turn to your neighbor and compare your views on how the student is as a writer. Now that you know what your role should be during a writing conference, I want you to watch the following video on roving conferences. Write down these questions and answer them as the video goes on. What does the teacher do right? What was one thing that this teacher could have done better? Would you implement roving conferences in your classroom? Why or why not? You have just listened to this workshop on conferencing. You have learned about your role as the teacher during conferencing. You have learned what decisions you need to be making and how you make those decisions. You know the goals of conferencing and what conferencing should look like in your classroom. You have analyzed student work and decided what you should do with those students during a writing conference. One thing that I did not touch on is how much time conferencing actually takes. It is a long process, but is so beneficial for both you and the students. The article, Small Group Writing Conferences K-5, How to Use Your Instructional Time More Efficiently, gives great insight into how you can group your students in order to conduct group writing conferences. This saves us time. Holly Slaughter talks about many ways we can assess our students' writing to group them appropriately. To do this, we research the room and collect student work. I want you to read the article, Small Group Writing Conferences K-5, How to Use Your Instructional Time More Efficiently by Holly Slaughter, and use the information to help you research and assess your students to form small conferencing groups. This will help you save time in your own classroom. We have to figure out strategies to help us use our time more efficiently. For your homework, you are going to be doing some conferencing in your classroom. First, I want you to read the article. While you read, take down important information on all three researching techniques: research through a teaching point lens, research through a goals lens, and research through a writing process lens. Go back into your classroom and implement the researching techniques. Create 3 charts, one for each technique, to record student data. Form groups based on the data you collect. Then answer the following questions. What did you like about this? What did you dislike about this? And would you use this type of assessment in your classroom again? There are so many resources out there that will teach you more about conferencing with young writers. Here, I have provided you all with a few websites that give useful information about conferencing. I highly recommend exploring these sites. They are great. The first website is a blog by teachers. These teachers give information on conferencing and writing and how to make conferencing and writing better in your classroom. They also give the latest research on teaching. The next website is a place to learn about the literacy consultant Carl Anderson. He has a ton of books with awesome information on conferencing with young students. The last website is another by Carl Anderson. This website is all about strategic writing conferences. I hope you all gained some great insight into conferencing with young writers. Please feel free to use this presentation whenever you need a refresher. Thanks for listening.